Chapter 12, Smoke and Mirrors Part 3, Anticlimax. Let's go back to the beginning, just for a few moments. If you're a smoker, according to the statistics, you probably want to stop smoking. But sometimes smokers tell me they want to stop smoking, and then interrupt me at every opportunity, in case I tell them something they don't want to hear. The truth is, most smokers don't want to stop smoking in the slightest, which explains why they're still smoking. They just say they want to stop smoking because they'd feel stupid saying otherwise. I recently took a phone call from a woman who said she wanted to come to a nicotine trick workshop. She sounded a bit hesitant, so I asked her if she wanted to stop smoking. Word for word, here was her reply. Yes, I've got to. I repeated the question. She repeated the reply. Yes, I've got to. Do you see what she was doing? By repeatedly qualifying the word yes with the words I've got to, she was in effect answering a question I wasn't asking, a question she felt more able to answer honestly. The question she was really answering was, have you got to give up smoking? Of course, the answer to that question is yes, unless you're already dying of lung cancer, in which case the only real risk in smoking is the risk of igniting the oxygen canister next to your bed and taking the entire hospital and your visiting relatives to eternity with you. But I wasn't asking whether she needed to stop smoking. I was asking if she wanted to. She wasn't even letting my question get as far as her subconscious mind. Her voice didn't change at all. She didn't know what she was doing. Maybe you think I'm being hard on her, but I'm simply pointing out that smokers are forced to deceive themselves all their lives. In fact, in blunt terms, the answer she was really giving was, no, I don't want to stop smoking. What most smokers really want is an excuse to carry on smoking. And if smoking wasn't so expensive, unhealthy, and disgusting, they'd smoke all day, every day. This makes sense. Until they know they suffer from a phobia, smokers can't really want to stop smoking. It's impossible. All they really want to do is get rid of the consequences of smoking. And here's why. If your subconscious mind thinks you're protecting yourself from some hidden threat by smoking, why on earth would it want you to stop? Don't forget that, just like any other phobia, smoking has now mistakenly become part of the survival instincts that help you respond to threat and danger. If you force yourself to stop smoking, this phobia will still be there. It won't just go away by itself. You'll feel that a crucial safety net has been taken away from you. Maybe you'll learn to live with it eventually, but it will still cast a shadow over the rest of your life. If that was all I could offer you, do you think I'd have bothered writing this book? No. So let's make sure you know why it's going to be different this time. If the woman with the phobia of dogs doesn't see a dog for 10 years, does that mean her phobia is cured? No. Does it mean it simply faded away? No. All it means is that it's not been triggered. The trigger is still there, waiting to react. It's exactly the same with smoking. How many times has an ex-smoker told you that they still get cravings months or even years after stopping? How many times have you heard about someone who stopped smoking for years and then started again at a funeral or during some other stressful time? Why do you think this happens? It happens because they tried to stop smoking without the permission of their own subconscious mind. This can never work in the long term. And to make this approach even more futile, whenever an ex-smoker does cave in and light up looking for relief or pleasure, the cigarette mysteriously turns its back on them and makes them feel as disappointed, dizzy, ill, and stressed as their first ever cigarette did. This is because they no longer even have the nicotine-induced sensation to partially reduce. So, rather than the cigarette helping, they've suddenly got the tension caused by nicotine, plus the tension caused by the genuine stress they were trying to relieve. They've got double stress. What an absolute nightmare. This is why ex-smokers are so horrified when they have a sudden cigarette years after stopping. It isn't just the embarrassment and shame of smoking again. It's the overwhelming disappointment. It doesn't feel like they remember at all, because any tension they've got is now caused by genuine fear or stress. It's no longer caused by their body's delayed reaction to nicotine, which means a cigarette can't possibly reduce it. It's like taking a headache tablet to cure indigestion. It's a misunderstanding of what the sensation actually is. Unfortunately, what smoking a cigarette for old time's sake does do is resurrect a feeling of nicotine-induced tension that the smoker's subconscious mind then mistakes for fear and anxiety and tries to reduce with another cigarette, and the cycle of disappointment and fear starts all over again. Most smokers know that smoking is a waste of time, but they're not quite sure why. Survey after survey shows that almost every smoker wishes they'd never started smoking. So why don't they all just stop? Because they're in the grip of the phobia known as the nicotine trick. Their subconscious minds aren't allowing them to stop, so they have no choice but to keep using fake reasons to keep smoking. Chapter 13, The Ultimate Cigarette. What if, rather than stopping smoking, you could do the exact opposite? What if you had the opportunity to smoke the ultimate cigarette, a cigarette that was so powerful and satisfying that it would take 4 entire days to smoke? What if this cigarette could finally remove the feeling of physical tension caused by all the cigarettes that had gone before it and leave you calm, satisfied, and relaxed at last? What if it wasn't even going to give you a sore throat or bad breath or a hacking cough? And what if it wasn't going to cost you a penny? What would you do for a cigarette like that? A cigarette that was going to finally work after all the thousands of cigarettes that haven't. Just a fantasy, right? Wrong. If you beat the nicotine trick, the last cigarette you ever smoke will be exactly what I've just described. It won't satisfy anything by itself, but the fact that it's your last cigarette will. Over a period of about 4 days, the feeling of physical tension will finally fade to nothing. Your craving for relief will be permanently satisfied, and it won't cost you a penny. It's almost laughably simple, isn't it? Yet, despite the truth of this, the magical 4-day period following your last ever cigarette is the single thing that terrifies most smokers who want to stop. The hysteria about nicotine withdrawal symptoms is now so widespread that smokers just don't know what to expect, so the phobia automatically kicks in every time. Having helped smokers to make these 4 days the most enjoyable of their entire lives, this is almost unbearably frustrating for me. How do you explain to someone who's had a feeling of physical tension for years that the only thing that will happen if they stop smoking is that this exact same sensation will remain for a few days and then disappear? Even though it's true, it just doesn't match the overwhelming brainwashing being forced onto smokers, so it doesn't sound true. In many ways, helping people to escape from the nicotine trick is like helping people to escape from a mind-control cult, a false religion that is driven by fear and blind faith in two things. Firstly, that smoking a cigarette can perform some miracle that will make you more relaxed and calm, and secondly, that leaving the religion will be a terrifying and distressing experience. Just like a real cult, it operates by tricking your normal mental process into seeing things in a distorted way. Time after time after time, I see stop smoking books and programs that talk about being strong and having the power and strength to succeed, and I feel like falling to my knees and screaming in sheer frustration at the utter stupidity and ignorance of these statements. I just cannot believe that there are people whose very profession is supposedly smoking cessation, and they're perpetuating exactly the same bullshit that is keeping countless millions of smokers trapped inside their phobia, inside the invisible cage known as the nicotine trick. Incidentally, there's another myth I need to dispel here, and that is that heavy smokers suffer stronger withdrawal symptoms when they stop smoking than light smokers, that it's somehow more ingrained. In fact, there's absolutely no difference. If you smoke 2 drags from a single cigarette, which is enough to flood your brain with nicotine, and then stop, your body's reaction to nicotine will be exactly the same as that of a smoker who has just stubbed out their millionth cigarette. In either case, the feeling of tension is caused by the last cigarette they smoked. The subconscious fear and misunderstandings that drive smoking are identical in every smoker, and the continual feeling of tension is the same whether you smoke 5 cigarettes each day or 500. If your subconscious mind is mistaking the delayed effects of nicotine for fear, you're trapped by the nicotine trick. If it isn't, you're not. There are no half measures, no room for misunderstanding. It really is this simple. Don't swallow the hype about being more or less hooked or cutting down. I still haven't met a single smoker who's ever succeeded in the long term by using this approach. But why would you even want to? Why would you choose reduced tension over no tension at all? Would a migraine sufferer choose a slightly reduced headache over no headache at all? The only reason people ever look for a complicated solution to a problem is that they don't know a simple solution exists. When it's dark inside your house, you don't start trying to eat carrots in order to improve your eyesight so you can see in the dark. You switch the lights on. When it starts raining, you don't try to find some miraculous way of making it stop raining. You pick up an umbrella. Why would you want to take a complicated route to becoming a non-smoker when a blindingly simple route is directly in front of you, like a huge illuminated runway? You've got a phobia caused by the fact that nicotine simulates fear and relaxation. It's a simple phobia with a simple cause and an equally simple solution, which is to remove the source of the fear from your subconscious mind and then let the sensation itself die away over a 4-day period. Let me give you a specific example of how it works. A few weeks ago, a smoker got in touch with me via a mutual friend, having been told about the nicotine trick. She'd seen the Have You Heard animation on the Nicotine Trick website and was in a combined state of anxiety and excitement. She was desperate to stop smoking, but worried about whether she had the willpower to do it. Here's what I did. After persuading her to forget about even trying to stop smoking, I asked her to imagine that each time she smoked a cigarette, she was being bitten by a snake and injected with mild, painless, delayed reaction venom, nicotine. I got her to imagine it as vividly as she could and helped her add some extra detail to it, which was meaningful to her. By doing this, she was allowing her subconscious mind to start correctly associating the feeling of tension caused by nicotine with the last cigarette she smoked. I also gave her 2 simple instructions to follow each time she smoked a cigarette, instructions that I'll explain in detail in the next section. Then I told her to smoke whenever she got even the slightest urge to. She seemed a bit disappointed by this. She was hoping I was going to cure her of smoking in one sitting. I told her to give it a few days and stressed that it was important that she followed the instructions each time she smoked. 3 days later, she phoned me late in the evening. That morning, she'd woken up with a strange feeling of excitement, as though something positive had happened to her while she was asleep. She had half a packet of cigarettes on her bedside table, which no longer attracted her in the slightest. She also recognized a feeling of mild tension in her body, which she instantly knew was caused by her body's delayed reaction to nicotine. Of course, she'd known this ever since I'd explained it 3 days earlier, but for the first time she really felt it. For the rest of the day, she waited for this sensation to trigger a desire to smoke. But even as the feeling gradually got stronger, she had no desire to smoke. Every time she noticed the feeling of tension, she immediately recognized it as her body's natural, delayed reaction to nicotine, a reaction she'd experienced thousands of times before. By seeing it like this, it was totally impossible for her to be scared by it. After all, it wasn't hurting her in any way, and she was in no doubt as to what had caused it. Even better, she knew without any doubt that smoking another cigarette would be like forcing the snake to bite her again. It wouldn't hurt, but it wouldn't help either because her body would react to the venom all over again, causing a delayed feeling of painless physical tension. And for what? Nothing. No pleasure, no end result, nothing. That was the day she got it. That was the day she finally beat the nicotine trick. Her phobia was gone. A couple of days later, she didn't even have the feeling of tension anymore. Remember once again that the reason the delayed response to nicotine frightens your subconscious mind so much is that it develops gradually after you've smoked a cigarette, so it's not obvious what's caused it. It's called cause and effect. If you bang your head on a cupboard, you have a bruise. That bruise won't scare you because you know exactly what caused it. But if you were to suddenly develop a bruise on your head for no apparent reason, it would frighten the hell out of you because you wouldn't know how it got there. Do 747 pilots panic when they fly into severe turbulence? No. So why do half the passengers? Because they don't know what to expect, so it takes them by surprise. Do heart surgeons panic when they see blood? No. So why do so many patients? Because they don't know what to expect, so it takes them by surprise. Do lion tamers panic when they see lions? Do climbers panic when they see a sheer cliff face? Do marathon runners panic at the first sign of cramp? Are you going to panic when you stop smoking? Not this time. You've already got too much information to panic. Even I can't take this information off you. You can't even throw it away if you want to. You can't unknow what you already know. The way in which smokers see smoking is so upside down that sometimes it almost turns me upside down explaining it. That's one of the reasons I wrote this book. It allowed me to set down every element of the nicotine trick in detail and in the right order. Let me tell you something else. The cigarette industry is absolutely delighted for you to see smoking as either drug addiction or a habit, as long as you fail to see it as a phobia, and don't buy into the health campaigns that pretend to attack smoking by showing people dying of lung cancer, because I'll let you into another secret, one that many people involved in smoking cessation know full well. These campaigns don't work. How many of these campaigns explain that there is no pleasure in smoking? None of them. How many explain that your subconscious mind mistakes the delayed reaction to nicotine for fear? None of them. Instead, they always talk about the terrifying risks of smoking, risks that are already plastered on every cigarette advertisement and even on the packets themselves. These warnings do nothing more than frighten the hell out of every smoker who sees them. And what does fear make smokers do? Smoke. In fact, the cigarette industry and its vested interests would probably pay me a lot of money simply to shut up about the nicotine trick altogether and instead tell you about all the horrible diseases caused by smoking. But what's the point? If you're reading this book, the chances are that at some point in your life, you've already stumbled across the earth-shattering revelation that smoking is bad for you. Do you ever feel like the world is going mad? I do. Even now, I sometimes have to pinch myself in supermarkets when I see people queuing like nicotine-stained sheep, actually queuing towards brightly lit yellow banners that are screaming the words, "Smoking causes cancer." Members of the most advanced species on this planet actually queuing to buy a product with the threat of death directly advertised on the banners, the packets, the posters, and everywhere else. The scientists arrogantly declare that somewhere in space there must be a species of life as advanced as us. What a laugh! What would we teach such a species? How to roll their own cigarettes? How to smoke in an aircraft toilet without